parachute her into a really good shooting game against UCLA, because I do think that, UCLA, um, they're definitely, like, without Juju, they're definitely way better than USC. I think with Juju, they're probably, pretty similar, but we're going to need her and everybody to really shoot the ball well and to play well down in Tampa Friday. So I really loved that. I loved that he kept feeding her and going to her, and it's such a testament to him and the coaching staff that even in a moment where the game is close, you kind of see the bigger picture. And I think, listen, that's why he's got 11 national championships, right? Is because he knows how to get kids to click at
Yeah.
the right time, to build that confidence and get everybody to play their specific role, which they did the other night.
My father mentioned this, and if I wondered if it was true or not. He seems to believe that, and I'm sure it's true to some extent, but each game they go in with a specific game plan of, obviously you want to feed Paige, but maybe this week, we're going to get AZ the ball a little bit more. Maybe we're going to get Sarah the ball a little bit more, instead of everyone keying on Paige. Do they have a plan where they may feature another player predominantly more than another, between Sarah and AZ? Or do you think it's kind of pretty equal and whoever gets hot, and that's who they roll with?
Yeah, no, I think, like, listen, I mean, Paige is she's the girl, right? So I think
Yeah.
that the you want to start every game with your superstar getting shots and making shots, but USC did a really good job in that first quarter of making it really, really hard for her. We went down early, and then Sarah stepped up. And, if Sarah doesn't step up in that first quarter and start knocking down shots and do what she did, it doesn't free Paige up to be able to do
No.
all the things that, she likes to do and she's really good at. So, I think the thought is that, yeah, you want to feed your main player, you want to feed your main kids, but you have to have resilience as a team where, like, okay, she's not getting to her spots like we need her to. Somebody else has got to step up, or else they're just going to keep keying in on her. And I thought Sarah did a really good job of that early on to relieve some of the attention off Paige. And other kids did stuff well to alleviate that. But Sarah was really the big one in that first quarter. That really kept us in the game early, so that
Yeah.
Paige could get going. Um, so I don't know that it's like a specific. Here's who we're going to go to. I think that
Right.
they run an offense where it's like there's opportunities for everybody all the time. You just got to maximize and capitalize on those when you do. And Sarah did that early. Az did it late, and Paige did it in the middle. So your three-headed monster kind of did what you needed them to do in the times that you needed it.
Now, when do they officially name the best player in the country for the women?
Well, they released one last
They
week.
did. Okay.
I forget. There's a couple. One was released last week. Juju got that one.
Hmm.
Um, I think that there's another one within the next couple of days. So we'll start to see that stuff trickle out. Um, but I can tell you this: no one on the UConn roster is thinking or caring about any of that stuff right now. They're
No.
just focusing on UCLA and what they need to do to get to the national championship game.
No, I fully agree with you. And, the other thing you talked about was defensively. Um, we just look like we're on a different level on defense. I mean, we play with so much heart and so much effort and so much passion and enthusiasm. It's almost like we enjoy being on defense. I mean, we are fierce defensively. We are all over people. And I think it's a testament to, obviously, like you said, how hard they work in practice and what's their philosophy, what's important to them. And obviously the rotation, putting KK in. But defensively, it seems like they turn things up a notch for the tournament. And I know they probably turned everything up a notch, but defensively, I definitely have noticed the tournament has escalated.
Yeah, I mean, USC played with a bigger lineup for a lot of the game. And when Ice or El Afi weren't in the game, you had Paige
Yep.
on that second big, and I thought she did a really good job. Um, Sarah did an amazing job, you know, in the post and in creating, opportunities for us to go down the other end and just kind of keeping them off the glass because, it's always
Yeah.
it's the initial moving too. And I thought we did a really good job of keeping them off the offensive boards, and limiting them to one shot opportunity per possession. And then, I thought our guards did a really good job of pressuring their guards so that getting it into the post wasn't as easy for them.
Right.
Obviously without Juju, because she does handle the ball quite a bit, that task might have been a little bit easier, but they're still a talented team and they have talented guards.
Very
I just thought that defensively we played awesome. I thought, offensively everybody that was in there contributed. Caitlin Chen, as you mentioned before, I mean that was probably the best game I've seen her play all year.
Yeah.
And not because she scored some points, but she was aggressive when she needed to be. She was composed when she needed to be. She played good defense. She just played a solid all around game. So, if we can play like that again on Friday night, we're going to be really tough to beat.
Yeah, you described her perfectly. She really keeps a calmness about her. She does her job. She doesn't seem to have an ego or want more. She does whatever's asked of her, and she does it to the best of her ability, and she makes others around her better. And this was another question from my father, because we've been watching the games. UConn really hasn't taken many transfers, correct, from the transfer portal other than Caitlin?
So they have Lou Lopez Seneschal
Okay.
a couple years ago. Dorka was a transfer from Ohio State. But yeah, I mean, not many in
Yeah.
comparison to the
The-
other top programs out there. And I think, like I've mentioned this before, I think in the transfer portal for UConn, like it's one thing to be really talented, right? But there's a lot of other intangibles that go
right.
into, playing at UConn, playing for Gino. Like if you can't check all those boxes, it's just not going to be a good fit. And I think that part of that is that selflessness piece, which you saw in Dorka, you saw in Lou, and you're seeing now in Caitlin is like, all right, I used to be the guy, and now I'm not the guy. I'm just a role player. And are you selfless enough to be able to step into that? Are you competitive enough to not care about personal accolades over team victories? And I think, UConn specifically has done a really good job of finding some kids in the portal that fit that mold perfectly. And I think Caitlin's a great example of that.
So going into the matchup Friday, what is your
Yep.
prediction for Friday? Do you think it's going to be a close one? Do you think it's going to be a barn burner? Or do you think we're going to, because I know UCLA has the big that you were worried about. You mentioned that she was very good and very talented. Do you think that is going to make a difference and play a role? Because it is going to be quite the challenge. You never know what you're going to get, and it's always difficult. I think with the combination of obviously Ice and Jana El Alfi, they can shut UCLA down. Yep, and go from there.
Can you hear me? Oh,
Yep, I got you. So yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the game
I
against
need.
UCLA. Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, they got a really good big. They got a point guard. They have some good role players that I think will do what they're supposed to do. I think the game is going to come down to, your superstars are gonna be superstars, right? On both sides of the ball, and I think the game really is going to come down to the role players on Friday. I think, the team whose role players do exactly what is needed when it's needed is going to come away victorious because there's only yeah I mean all right, Paige scored 40, she scored 31. I'd like to say, all right, let's count Paige for another 40 piece, right? But that might not be 100% realistic. But um, you know what? What are the bigs going to provide? How's AZ going to shoot? Ashlyn Shade coming off the bench and being able to knock down shots. KK being disruptive on defense. So I think it's going to come down to the role players on Friday because my expectation is that Paige is going to be Paige, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, I think Sarah is going to do exactly what Sarah's been doing all year, which is just getting double doubles and making great passes and playing good D. I think it's going to come down to AZ shooting well and the other kids being able to maximize their opportunities as role players.
Yeah. And you're obviously predicting a victory.
I mean, yeah, I bleed blue like you, man, of course.
And so, what do you think about the other game with South Carolina and Texas?
I like Texas, man.
You've always loved Texas. You said that they would give us the most
Yeah,
trouble.
I just, obviously South Carolina has a great coach in Dawn Staley. They've got some talent on that team. I don't see them, outside of Pow Pow being able to knock down some shots here and there. The other guard, Full Wiley, is turnover prone. She's not a great shooter from the outside. The big kid is good, but she's not as good as the bigs they had last year. And Texas has bigs. They have a great post player. They have a sophomore phenom in Madison Booker. They have Harmon who plays, the point, and then they got some really feisty guards off the bench.
Right.
And I think they're gonna put South Carolina through some fits. I'm calling a UConn Texas final.
Yep, that's what you've said all along. And I watched Texas once, and they just seem relentless. They just come at you. They seem pretty deep, and they have a lot of firepower, and they just seem to play fast, 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 and that will be a interesting game for us. And I'm excited for it. But obviously, we have to get through UCLA, and we're actually planning to do a watch party for it Friday night. So if we get you on for a couple minutes, you can come on. We're gonna have a
All
big
right.
watch party. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Um, so UConn versus Texas. That game happens, and this my co-host from yesterday was just blown away by the schedule. He just thought the schedule was atrocious because obviously we talked about it. They had to fly right to Tampa, and they're rushing to get this done by Friday, and I don't understand why. But there's not a lot of time. I mean, it's two games between now, and Friday, and or Saturday. What do you think's going to happen? So I think we play Friday, the other one Saturday. The men play Saturday. The girls will play Sunday, and the men's final will be on Monday, I believe. I believe will be on Monday, and that'll be interesting as well. I can't wait to see it. Um, the men are always fun to watch. It's going to be kind of scary, but I think that it'll absolutely be a great. But yeah, they're rushing to get these games in. It's going to play a factor, obviously, with conditioning and fatigue. But UConn, Texas,
Yep.
how do you see that going?
Yeah, I think that's going to be it's going to be a gritty game. Um, again, I think they pose some matchup problems for us. We pose some matchup problems for them. Um, I think that's just going to be a gritty game. And if it's South Carolina, I think we win. I think we win.
I think we do too.
You know, either way. But yeah, I think Texas is more well-rounded. I think they're playing better basketball than South Carolina right now. So my assumption would be that they would continue that. But you never know what Dawn has up her sleeve. Um, but we'll be ready. I mean, yeah, it's a quick turnaround, but at least they didn't have to go back to cold Connecticut for a day
I
or two
know.
before they went straight to Tampa. So they're down there ready and they're getting in the groove. So
Was Texas a one?
yeah, UConn's the only
Only
one
two.
or the
Only
only
two.
two in both sides, men or
God,
women.
that's crazy how that turned out.
Yeah. So
And you called it. I mean, with the NIL and the transfer portal, the tournament hasn't been what it's normally been, and to see it shape out like this, I'm sure the NCAA didn't want all number one seeds, and it's good that UConn got in there. And UConn, had they played in a different conference, that was the discussion we had last night. I think if they played in the ACC, they would have been fine. I think if they played in the Big 12, they would have been fine. The SEC may have been a challenge. Do you agree with that?
um, listen, I think that there would have been a lot more closer games throughout the year, specifically towards the end of the season and into the tournament. I think that the tournament wouldn't have been as much of a cakewalk as the Big East was. But I think if we make that change, and we're playing those teams day in and day out, I think we adjust.
We'll be better.
I think, yeah, like I think that we adjust during the season to a specific style of play, and then when you get into the tournament, you're seeing teams you haven't seen all year. It's a little bit different, and you got to maybe adjust your scout or your style a little bit based off of who you're playing. I think if we were in the SEC or even the ACC, we probably would have had to do that more frequently during the year. Um, but yeah, I mean, we still would have been fine. I'd like to think we still would have won either one of those tournaments as well. So, we'll be ready for this weekend and anything that's thrown at us.
Yeah, I think so too. I know you got to get running here, but thank you for being with us. I just wanted to, again, I have to thank Ned Von Young, Fresh himself, Fresh Fold Laundry Company, Carborough, North Carolina. They have a state of the art laundromat. They will wash, dry, and fold your clothes in land speed records. They have online scheduling for your washer or your dryer. You can book it online. They have an online subscription model, weekly or bi-weekly, and they have specials for college students. So if you want to get your laundry done and you're in the Chapel Hill area, go to the Fresh Fold Laundry Company, and it's freshfold-laundry.com. That is their website. And I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anyone else. I don't believe that I am. So, Maria, it was a pleasure talking with you. You were fantastic on the radio today. We appreciate it. You have a safe trip where you're going, and we will be in touch. But thank you again. And just so you know, remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take two oranges, throw them right back at life.